All right, go ahead and kick it off, Avina, and I'll start the timer.
Alrighty, so our question for this week is please discuss with your group members situations in which you have employed the various sources of power and influence referenced by Hackman and Johnson. Further, work to tie those experiences to your role as a leader or as a follower. So there's this lovely chart on page 143, and that's kind of what I was looking at this week when I was getting prepared for our discussion today. And it gave examples in each of the paragraphs about the different powers. So I was like connecting more with the boss aspect on legitimate power, how that person is your boss, and how when I did training, people like had to just sit there and listen to me because I was someone that had the legitimate power. I was their boss. I was training them. I was giving them the information they needed to carry out their task. So there was that, and then I thought of actually also coercive power could be your boss too, because they can give you positive and negative punishments, like I talked about the last time with like the counseling statements and stuff like that. So that's what I got from this week. The like situations could be my training situation that I dealt with, and then just tying our conversation back into last week with coercive power, like your boss could also have coercive power because they can give you a bonus and then write you up or whatnot. So, next person.
Yeah, I definitely feel that from me personally, like I've definitely experienced all different kinds of power in the workforce. Sometimes from certain individuals, like a mixture of all those. So like the coercive power, legitimate, and extra power. So an example of this is when back when I was first hired for my first job. I definitely experienced like a mixture of all these in the sense of extra power where they knew more than I knew. So in a sense, like they were training me and I knew they knew more than I did. So that's what made me want to listen and get that training. But at the same time, the supervisor was also had that legitimate power over me to be my boss. So both extra power and legitimate power, and then also going along with that, a coercive power to where if I, for some reason, did not want to listen or obey whatever it is that was going on, like I can be punished. So there's definitely been a lot of different aspects that I've experienced. Some people mix, and there's also been bad experience where it's just legitimate power that they only have power over me because of their title, but not necessarily because they have more knowledge than me in a certain area. So I've definitely experienced both sides of it.
Yeah, like I think I can relate to like all of the powers listed, especially probably like legitimate power, just from like parents and teachers and everything. Like I think that's something that we can all agree on is just like even though we didn't agree with what our parents like their rules that they might have had for us, but like we still followed them because like they were in charge and everything. Um, and an example, like when I have had legitimate powers, like when I babysit like my nieces or nephews or something, like the role kind of flips and like I'm the one that has power over them, like because I'm in charge because I'm older and stuff. Like for from a leader's perspective, like I have information power like on our basketball team because there's five of us who are like our coach calls it like the leadership team, so we're like our captains. And like when we have more inside information than the rest of the team might have because like we're working closely like with the coaches and everything and get like that inside information, and then we're the ones that have to distribute like the necessary information to the rest of the team.
The one I've experienced most, I would say, is in my previous job. I worked at a pizza place, and it was very different from where I work now. Um, Reward power, and because it doesn't take too much to become an expert at making pizza, it really doesn't. It was reward power and legitimate power and coercive power more than anything, really. Um, but I experienced all of those there top down. So I felt those three different kinds of powers there on the regular coercive power. They used that they had these things. I forget exactly what they were called. They were called write-ups. Write-ups, you know, it was basically like it was a note that you signed saying, "Hey, I did something wrong. I acknowledge it, and you know, I get two more of these and I'm fired," kind of thing. So those were constant threats. I got one, I think, like a week after I got there because of someone else. Like four people got it at the same time. But coercive power, that was hanging over everyone's head all the time. Reward power, I don't know if that's so much reward power as it was managers there played favorites a lot. So you know, if you did things for them, they would, you know, favor you in certain instances. You know, they give you the day off instead of someone else. Um, Legitimate power also just because, you know, they were our managers and they had higher titles. And, of course, the third manager was not really much of a manager, just kind of someone that sat under the other managers. But so those three types of power are the most prominent in my first job.
I noticed that a lot of you guys talked about coercive and reward power, and those are definitely the two that I could relate to the most. I think that we see coercive power a lot in our day-to-day lives because it's something that humans respond to really well because we don't like being punished. Um, and we also like from whatever we are. So, you know, the contingency of if you do this, then I will do this, or then I will give you this. Um, Definitely is something that's prevalent in our lives. And then on the flip side, you know, reward power. If you do this, then I will give you this positive thing. Um, and then, Kelsey, I liked your example of babysitting. That was something that I definitely could relate to because I have a ton of little siblings. Well, not a ton. I have three little sisters that I would watch when I was still at home. And definitely coercive power is something that you have to use when you're watching little kids because they won't listen if they think that you are faltering. And then, like with coercive power, you have to follow up with everything you say. You cannot have empty threats. And I thought that was a really important part of that specific term, that specific source of power. And then, as far as reward power, you know, if you clean your room, then we can go get an ice cream type of thing. I think that for me personally, I respond as a follower. I respond to reward power really well because I I don't like feeling threatened. So if somebody says, "Oh, if you don't do this, then you're going to get this negative thing," then I feel threatened and I don't like that. But if someone says, "If you do this, then I will give you this positive thing," that sits better with me. And then, of course, legitimate power. I think that one's kind of a tough one because a lot of the times we have managers that aren't leaders, and so we think their power is legitimate, but um, but they like aren't actually considered leaders. So that's kind of a hard one to discuss. Like I agree with what you guys were saying about your managers that kind of weren't the best, but they had legitimate power, so you had to like, follow them. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to like call them a leader when they're not being a leader.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I got about it.
And then I like Kelsey's example with her like being part of the five that were on the leadership team. That could tie in really well to the leader and follower aspect because the rest of Kelsey's team members have to follow her and the other four individuals in order to get that information that they have from their coaches. So that tied in like the second part of the prompt, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was a cool example.
Yeah.
Any, we didn't really touch on the referent power, the information or the ecological power. I think the information and ecological are kind of on the tail end. They were kind of like a little treat at the end. The referent power, has anyone had any experience with that?
When I first got hired on as at my first job, I did experience that just because there were certain I guess, supervisors you could say that I would look up to, that I would one day like to be like. So I think that's always very important. That's always something that I've set for myself as a goal. Like I want to be that person that sets the example for everyone, and that people want to, I guess, be like. So that's my experience. I know we kind of ran out of time, so I don't want to
No,
keep
it's fine.
rambling
We
on.
hit the 10-minute mark. We still have a minute and 30 seconds left.
Oh,
So.
okay. So just to kind of wrap it up, yeah, like to me that's pretty much just like setting the example. How do you want others to view you, and how do you want them to, if you want them to be like you or something like that, like something like that. So kind of like that role model aspect, and I have experienced that throughout my career.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like Kelsey left.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Hopefully she'll come back. Yeah, the referent power too. When I was in training with a bunch of other individuals, like the senior most associates like had us as like, their little mini me's or whatnot. So we like looked up to them for direction pretty much. So like our whole team wouldn't look bad. So I can definitely see where you're coming with that, with the referent power being, looking up to a role model.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that would signal the end of our session.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay.
Have a great rest of your week, guys. And
Thank
then don't forget, for next time, we're going to have our definition for our 5 terms and then our sources.
Cool.
Alrighty, see you next week.
Wait, do we want to
Yeah.
sort out who's gonna get which terms?
I can put a Google Doc and then like I'll make it right now and then I'll write the 5 terms and then whatever, first come first serve, you just pick whatever term you like.
Sounds good.
Yep. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.